You're a good soldier, fighting your battles. I don't know, no, the others. Just chilling, I don't know. It's time for Africa, Sunday 99. Waka waka, Wait, no, this is basketball. So if it's basketball, so on camp, usually for school day, I go at like 8 o'clock, but it's 8:42 because summer camp. And I'm going to Scotland on June 11th, which will be Friday, so that would be Thursday at like 9 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, yep. Also, this looks kind of different. So we're going to do group A and C first. Then do the group E for them. I don't know. Anyway, Cape Verde, and Cameroon. 65-58 to Cape Verde. That's basically an upset. Liberia versus South Sudan. 76-62 to South Sudan. Cameroon versus Liberia. Cameroon absolutely destroys them 124-38. South Sudan versus Cape Verde. South Sudan wins 107-58. South Sudan versus Cameroon. Cameroon wins 65-63. Cape Verde versus Liberia. Liberia wins 110-104. Top would be South Sudan with 10 points, Cameroon with 10 points, and Cape Verde with 9 points, and Liberia with 7. Tunisia versus Nigeria. Nigeria wins 61-55. Guinea versus Rwanda. 100-60. Yeah. Ghana wins 100-66. Nigeria wins 72-71. Rwanda versus Tunisia. Tunisia wins 117-66. Rwanda versus Nigeria. Also, these are the rest of the matches. Others were already played. And Nigeria wins 62-49. And Tunisia wins 72-70. And Tunisia with 10 points, Guyana with 10 points, Nigeria with 10 points, and Rwanda with 6 points. Okay, now Nigeria versus South Sudan. South Sudan wins 79-72. Tunisia versus Cameroon. Cameroon wins 72-68. Guyana versus Cape Verde. Cape Verde wins 94-82. South Sudan versus Guyana wins 82-71. South Sudan forfeit the match. Cameroon versus Nigeria. Nigeria wins 102-101. Cape Verde versus Tunisia. Tunisia wins 102-79. Tunisia versus South Sudan. South Sudan wins 108-107. Ghana versus Cameroon. Ghana wins 73-70. Nigeria versus Cape Verde. Nigeria wins 89-82. South Sudan versus Nigeria. South Sudan wins 100-70. Cameroon versus Tunisia. Cameroon wins 82-66. Cape Verde versus Guyana. Cape Verde wins 62-58. Ghana versus South Sudan. South Sudan wins 81-68. Nigeria versus Cameroon. Nigeria wins 72-71. Tunisia versus Cape Verde. Cape Verde wins 59-52. South Sudan versus Tunisia. South Sudan wins 113-110. Cameroon versus Ghana. Ghana wins 79-74. Cape Verde versus Nigeria. Cape Verde wins 94-90. And South Sudan, Cape Verde, and Nigeria would go through to the World Cup. Guyana, Cameroon, and Tunisia will not be. Tunisia topped their group, but I had them bottom of this one. Unlucky. You're a good soldier, getting your fighting your battle. Okay, time for Group B. Ivory Coast versus Senegal. Senegal wins 71-68. Madagascar versus DR Congo. DR Congo wins 99-79. Senegal versus Madagascar. Senegal wins 84-36. DR Congo versus Ivory Coast. DR Congo wins 69-66. DR Congo versus Senegal. DR Congo wins 70-60. And Ivory Coast versus Madagascar. Ivory Coast wins 83-82. Ivory Coast with 10 points, Senegal with 10 points, and DR Congo with 10 points, and Madagascar with 6 points. So Ivory Coast, Senegal, DR Congo will be going to the next group. And Group D, Egypt versus Mali. Mali wins 81-72. Uganda versus Angola. Angola will win 102-92. Mali versus Uganda. Mali wins 79-70. Angola versus Egypt. Angola wins 109-106. Angola versus Mali. Mali wins 104-103. And the match that decides of who goes to the group and who gets out. Egypt versus Uganda. Uganda wins 94-90. Mali with 12 points, Angola with 11 points, and Uganda with 7 points, and Egypt with 7 points. Uganda versus Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast wins 81-72. Mali versus Senegal. Mali wins 72-52. Angola versus DR Congo. DR Congo wins 103-102. Ivory Coast versus Angola. Ivory Coast wins 100-62. Senegal versus Uganda. Senegal wins 102. And now this is where I think the downfall of Mali will happen. DR Congo versus Mali. DR Congo wins 72-70. Mali versus Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast win 82-68. Angola versus Senegal. Angola wins 72-70. Uganda versus DR Congo. DR Congo wins 100-72. Ivory Coast versus Uganda. Ivory Coast wins 72-68. Senegal versus Mali. Senegal wins 80-72. DR Congo versus Angola. DR Congo wins 80-72. Angola versus Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast wins 84-82. Uganda versus Senegal. Senegal wins 106-102. Mali versus DR Congo. DR Congo wins 73-72. Ivory Coast versus Mali. Mali wins 85-82. Senegal versus Angola. Angola wins 82-72. DR Congo versus Uganda. DR Congo wins 73-70. And DR Congo will top it with 12 points. Ivory Coast will be second with 11 points. And Senegal with 8 points and 482 hoops. And Angola with 8 points and with 472 hoops. Mali with 7 points, and Uganda with 6 points. Yeah, you can see that. I think Mali will have a downfall. Here are the teams plus the European ones that I think will be going to the Basketball World Cup. Plus Qatar, because they're the host. It's taken like 2 weeks now for me to actually make the next one. It's gonna be here, so I'm just gonna show this to my dad, who's also Scottish. He counts as a Brit. Anyway, Cape Verde versus Cameroon. Change scene. Okay. Predict the Cape Verde to lose to Cameroon 78-72. Liberia versus South Sudan. South Sudan win 96-81. Cameroon versus Liberia. Cameroon wins 110-88. South Sudan versus Cape Verde. South Sudan win 111-99. South Sudan versus Cameroon. Cameroon wins 99-98. Cape Verde versus Liberia. Cape Verde wins 78-76. These are his predictions, by the way, not mine. Which Sudan is Cameroon on top. South Sudan on second, Cape Verde in third, and Liberia in last. Is that it? Yeah, Cameroon. Yeah. Ivory Coast versus Senegal. Ivory Coast won 99-97. Madagascar versus DR Congo. DR Congo won 88-78. DR Congo versus Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast went. Oh, I know. Senegal versus Madagascar. Senegal won 112-86. Also, yeah. Also, just in case you don't know, I would be a Great Britain fan. Also Boston, so to expand. DR Congo versus Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast won 98-91. DR Congo versus Senegal. Senegal won 101-87. Ivory Coast versus Madagascar. Ivory Coast won 108-92. Leaving Group B. Hold up, just to make sure. Group B. Ivory Coast on top. Senegal in second, and DR Congo in third. Anyway, yeah, he put some bias, and I pointed that out. So yeah, it was clear bias. Tunisia versus Nigeria. Nigeria won 104-92. Guyana versus Rwanda. Guyana won 84-82. Nigeria versus Guyana. Nigeria won 102-88. Rwanda versus Tunisia. Tunisia won 86-84. Rwanda versus Nigeria. Nigeria won 101-99. And Tunisia versus Guyana. Guyana won 101-99. Which leaves Group C, Guyana on top, Nigeria in second, Tunisia in third, and Rwanda at the bottom. D, Egypt versus Mali. Mali won 101-78. Uganda versus Angola. Angola won 101-98. Mali versus Uganda. Mali won 98-87. Angola versus Egypt. Angola won 86-84. Angola versus Mali. Mali won 90-88. Egypt versus Uganda. Egypt winning 78-72. Also top, yes, same thing as Europe. I gotta make a new thumbnail too. So yeah. Group B, they played Cameroon versus Tunisia. Cameroon win 99-96. Guyana versus South Sudan. South Sudan win 90-78. Where the hell's my wall? It's right behind me. Nigeria versus Cape Verde. Nigeria won 98-96. Cameroon versus Nigeria. Nigeria won 103-101. South Sudan versus Tunisia. South Sudan won 98-93. Cape Verde versus Guyana. Guyana won 80-78. Guyana versus Cameroon. Cameroon 91-80. Nigeria versus South Sudan. Nigeria won 110-108. Tunisia versus Cape Verde. Tunisia won 84-82. Then they play each other again. Cameroon versus Tunisia. Cameroon won 98-86. Guyana versus South Sudan. South Sudan won 84-80. Nigeria versus Cape Verde. Nigeria won 101-93. Cameroon versus Nigeria. Cameroon won 90-78. South Sudan versus Tunisia. South Sudan won 99-90. Cape Verde versus Guyana. Yeah, Cape Verde won 89-78. Well, Guyana versus Cameroon. Cameroon won 99-78. Nigeria versus South Sudan. South Sudan won 106-104. Tunisia versus Cape Verde. Cape Verde won 94-92. She's Group E. First is Cameroon. Second is South Sudan. Also 5 Africans. So third, Nigeria, who has a possibility of going through. Yeah, remember 5 Africans. 5 African teams. Oh. Okay, I think I already did. Yeah, I think I already did. So for F, Egypt versus Ivory Coast, Ivory Coast won 93-82. Mali versus Senegal, Senegal won 99-91. Angola versus Congo. DR Congo win 92-76. Ivory Coast versus Angola. Ivory Coast wins 98-78. Senegal versus Egypt. Senegal win 101-95. DR Congo versus Mali. DR Congo win 92-90. Oh wow, 3 minutes. Ivory Coast versus Mali. Mali win 90-89. Angola versus Senegal. Senegal win 92-78. Egypt versus DR Congo. Egypt win 98-97. Then repeat. Egypt versus Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast win 91-90. Mali versus Senegal. Mali win 95-92. Angola versus DR Congo. DR Congo win 89-83. Then Ivory Coast versus Angola. Ivory Coast win 101-92. Senegal versus Egypt. Senegal win 90-87. DR Congo versus Mali. Mali win 92-88. Ivory Coast versus Mali. Ivory Coast win 105-101. Angola versus Senegal. Senegal win 90-88. And Egypt versus DR Congo. Egypt win 101-99. Okay, Ivory Coast versus Senegal. No. Okay, stands for that would be Ivory Coast in first, Senegal in second, and Mali, who has a possibility of going to the Basketball World Cup. With DR Congo in fourth, Egypt in fifth. So yeah, and Nigeria have 602 hoops, with Mali having 557 hoops. So Nigeria are going to the FIBA World Cup. FIBA, I don't know what FIFA stands, but FIBA, FIBA, yeah. Anyway, I'm doing the Americas right now, and then I'll do the Asians. God, that felt crazy to say. Wait, I gotta check again, huh? Yeah, those Americas. Yeah, and then the Asias. And the Asians. What am I saying? Okay, here are the teams that my dad thinks will go through, including the European ones and the host. And I'll see you next time. I'm gonna eat you now.